The Partridge Family, the red-headed stepchild of the Brady Bunch. Now, I'm not sure about you, but in my household growing up in the 70s and even into the 80s, it was always about the Brady Bunch. I have very little knowledge of the ABC show Partridge Family. I guess it just never really ran in reruns in my area. The Brady Bunch, however, it seemed like it was always on TV, from heavy rotation on your local channel to 2 or 3 times a day on TBS. Now, I do know of the Partridge Family. I do remember that bus and the ugly little red-headed kid, but I have no memories of us as a family watching it. The Brady Bunch, not only could I remember watching the show with my brother and sister, I remember key episodes, for the Brady Bunch taking a trip to the Grand Canyon, or when they went to Hawaii. I even remember the time Greg Brady faked a UFO sighting, and that time his hair turned green. I even remember the first time Bobby got a kiss and saw fireworks. This show showed me that a kid as goofy and annoying as Bobby Brady could get a kiss, I could also. The Brady Bunch was always a part of my Gen X life, even after it aired, with its reruns, its reunion specials, and one of the funniest movies of the 90s, the Brady Bunch movie. The movie is perfectly cast, but Gary Cole does steal every scene that he's in as the head of the household, Mike Brady.
Jan, a real friend likes you for who you are, not what's on your face. If you judge your friends for passing judgment on you, you're not only judging yourself, you're judging your friends for judging you, and that would be using bad judgment.
I never thought of it that way.
But we're not talking about the Brady Bunch, even if I kind of wish we were. We're talking about the wannabe cousin of the Brady Bunch, the Partridge Family. The show will premiere in September of 1970. That was almost 1 year after Brady Bunch. Now, I guess the two shows wasn't all that alike, but it seemed like back then if one network had a hit show, at least one of the other networks would try to come out with a show with a similar format. You had a show with a talking horse, and you had a show with a talking car. Then there was a show about a beautiful suburban witch, and then another show about a beautiful suburban genie. There was even one that wanted to cash in on Sanford & Son, starring Freddie Prinze Jr.'s dad and the old man from Willy Wonka. Anyway, the Partridge Family followed the lives of a family pop band. The mom, played by Shirley Jones, could play the keyboard. David Cassidy, who would become a teen idol thanks to the show, was one of the lead vocalists, and he could also play a banjo. There was Susan Day, who could also sing, and this girl could even play the piano. And little Danny Bonaducci thought he could sing and play the bass. Other band members would come and go over the seasons, but outside the band was the band's manager, Reuben Kincaid, played by Dave Menon. The show was never a huge hit, but wasn't a total bomb either. The first season would land at number 26, and this was back when people only had 3 channels to watch. Its best season would be season 2, when it would rank at number 16. The final season would air in 1974, and ABC would move it from Friday night to Saturday night, a day often seen as a death knell for a TV show. Its ratings would drop to its lowest ever, number 78, losing about half of the audience. But if you thought this was the end of seeing the Pop Family Band on television, you were wrong. Over at the Hanna-Barbera Studios, the cartoon producers wanted to bring an old show out of retirement, and their plan was a new cartoon series based on the Jetsons. This would see George Jetson's son, Elroy, as a teenager, and his sister Judy would have a job as an ace reporter. When CBS head Fred Silverman heard of this, he hated it and wanted no part of it. He thought they needed something more hip and cool for their Saturday morning lineup. He told them to bring the Partridge Family to the cartoon world.
Cities rising in the skyway, traffic jetting high. Future's here for us to see. It's 2200 AD.
Now, the Partridge Family were no strangers to cartoons, as they had already appeared in a few episodes of the Hanna-Barbera cartoon series, Goober and the Ghost Chasers. Bringing the Partridge Family back as a cartoon, some changes would have to be made. The fun-loving 70s California Family Band was now, somehow, living in the future in the year 2200. They're still a band, but this time a lot more famous. So successful they no longer needed a manager. Sorry, Reuben. Little Danny Bonaducci now had a robot dog as a sidekick named Orbit, and Keith and Laura would have 2 friends that hung out with the band. Or maybe they were just really cool groupies. One of the friends was Marin, a green and blue Martian who could fly. The other was Vinny, an alien from Venus with purple hair. and a weird voice.
Allergic to bananas. Bye.
Danny Bonaducci, Suzanne Crowe, and Brian Foster had nothing better to do, so they returned to voice their Partridge Family characters. Susan Day would come back to voice Laura, but I guess her agent was able to get her out of it, as she would only provide the voice for 2 episodes. David Cassidy was making money being a teen idol, so voice actor Chuck McLean came in as the voice for Keith. The TV show's manager, Reuben Kincaid, did appear in a few episodes, but was no longer voiced by Dave Manning. Sorry, Dave. Mickey Dolan, who was already famous for his part in The Monkees, did come aboard to provide voices for various characters in the series. I guess that monkey cash was starting to dry up. The show would be titled Partridge Family 2200 AD, but would later be retitled The Partridge Family in Outer Space. The show premiered on CBS in September of 1974 and only would run for 16 episodes. In episode 1, Danny the Invisible Man, we see Danny Bonaducci use a gadget to turn invisible to impress a girl. But I guess they're saying the best way for Danny Bonaducci to get a girl to like him is to become invisible. That makes sense. Episode 2 was, If This Is Texas, It Must Be Doomsday, which is a great title, but that's about where the greatness ends. It seems the Partridge Family has agreed to play a concert, but they didn't know there was a deal to play there forever. I guess it's kind of like that deal Carrot Top made to work in Vegas. In episode 3, The Shrinking Keith, you guessed it, Keith gets shrunk. I guess it was too early to call the episode Honey, Danny Bonaducci Shrunk Keith Partridge. But there were more episodes, but I can't run down each one. There was one about a doll catcher, a Rax museum, someone stealing a cupcake, Laura goes on a computer date, Danny wrecks a car, and it ends with episode 16, titled Let's All Stick Together. This is where the family all gets stuck together by some new space-age superglue. Now remember when I first said this was going to be a new series of the Jetsons? Well, you can really see that by the look, as they had already started up some work on the Jetsons, and rather than start over, they just stuck the Partridge Family into the Jetson world. I mean, look at the former band manager Reuben. He looks more like an old George Jetson in a wig, rather than the actor that played him. Sorry, Dave. Overall, the show, as you can guess, wasn't very good, and it was canceled after those 16 episodes. It's hardly been shown since it aired. For a little time in the late 70s, it was worked into the Fred Flintstone and Friends cartoon block. Although it never got a home video release, 2 episodes got restored and appeared on the Partridge Family Season 1 DVD. There's not much else here to say, as the show was just trying to cash in on a show that had already lost most of its fans. The show is so far removed from the TV show setting that it really just doesn't feel like the Partridge Family. So the fans that were left were probably scratching their heads trying to figure out why this was even called the Partridge Family. But that's a look at a forgotten cartoon series.
I'd hate to bring a pig home to Mom and try and convince her it was Danny.
Are you kidding? The way he ordinarily eats, Mom would never know the difference.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.